All right, let's get it started. Good morning, everybody. Great to see some of you here on site. We also have people joining us over the stream. I hope you have a good morning so far. Please remember to take coffee if you haven't had it so far, tea, water, whatever, and we'll get the morning started. But before I let our speakers of today get on the stage, I just wanted to welcome you to the second investor collective of Martikainen. So today we have a very interesting session hosted by one of our in-house VC members, Maki, and we're gonna talk more about brand-driven company, what it is and how it could apply to your startups. And great to see so many of the founders in-house here on site. Before getting into the program, a short introduction into what the Martikainen Investor Collective is. As you know, we are hosting a great community of 170 startups and 12 in-house VCs here at Maria. And it's very crucial for us to sort of bring the best of the best together and share learnings and our different expertise in the house. And the collective was sort of initiated in order to bring also the in-house investors and our startup members closer together. So the idea is that one of the in-house VCs get an event for each month where they can sort of bring their expertise, whether it's the team members or portfolio companies sharing about various themes and topics. And here listed on the slide, you can see who the in-house investors here at Martikainen are. Shortly about the agenda for the next hour to come. I know some people at the stream have been waiting for us to get started, so finally we're here. We're going to have Pauliina first to talk about just the fundamentals behind brand-driven VC investing. Then we're going to have Alexander from Bo talking about brand labs and a super interesting case by Lotta from Spinnova. I'm not going to keep the microphone for much longer. Let's see. Yes. Are you, Pauliina, ready to get the show started? Welcome.
All right. Good morning, everyone, on my behalf as well. So I'm Pauliina, Martikainen, Investment Director at Maki. And as Jessica said, I'll be the one starting the morning today. And the topic is around branding. And then one of our collaboration partners, Bo Agency and Alexander from there will follow up. And then Lotta from Spinnova, our portfolio company, will talk directly after. But I'm going to start with talking about our focus overall, and then go into how we evaluate companies that are brand-driven. So we are an 80 million euros early-stage fund investing in deep tech and brand-driven companies across consumer and enterprise spaces. So basically, looking for companies who are based on scientific advances or strong IP or deep customer understanding. And I have too many things in my hands. We invest basically from inception to Series A. So ticket sizes range from 200k up to 2 million euros, and we've actually dedicated 2/3 of the fund for follow-on financing so that we can support our own portfolio companies further. And geographically, we do have an open mandate, so technically we can actually invest anywhere globally, but we're trying to, or prefer maybe working with companies we're close to, and since we invest that early. So the majority of our companies are from Finland. We do have investments in all the Nordic countries, one in France and one in the States as well. Above all, although we talk about deep tech and brand-driven companies, we do above all partner with founders that are relentlessly going after either existing categories and want to somehow change them, or even completely or create even completely new categories. And that's quite obvious if you actually go through the companies that we have at the moment. Our team is a mix of seasoned investors, startup executives, and also investors from the previous lives as well before Maki. So a lean core team of 6. My own background is a mix of venture capital strategy and marketing, and both of the partners have been actually building companies of their own and investing into successful companies before as well. For instance, Ilkka Kivimäki, he built a couple of companies of his own. One of them was sold to SAP back in 2006 or 2007, and after spending a couple of years with SAP, he came back to Finland and basically helped kickstart the whole startup scene here. So there was not too much happening back in 2010 or so, when he was behind a bunch of ecosystem initiatives, such as, for instance, chaired Slush for several years and helped Junction and Wave Ventures and so forth along the way, as well as was a partner with another VC fund investor for some time. What basically makes our fund a bit unique, maybe in comparison to some others? So typically VCs raise primarily of their funds from big institutional investors such as banks or pension funds and so forth. In our case, we did it a bit the other way around. So actually, in our 80 million euros fund, we do have 73 limited partners, so the fund investors who invested in our fund and whose money we're now managing and investing further into startups. And many of these LPs are actually private held individuals, so serial entrepreneurs or corporate executives that basically the partners wanted to be backing our fund so that we can also leverage them for the good of our portfolio companies. And basically what this means in practice is that we have people like Skyfounder Niklas Stenström from Atomico, or Supercell founder, Small Giant Games founder Timo Soininen, or Risto Silasmaa from F-Secure backing us, and then obviously some institutions on top, such as Tencent from Asia, for instance, and Ling is there. Who's in the picture is their European head. So 25 portfolio companies all in all, and I'm gonna show a few examples and not include Spinnova, since Lotta is gonna talk plenty of them later on. But one deep tech example, for instance, is IQM, the European pioneer when it comes to building quantum computers. And then from the more kind of a brand-driven pocket, Mainframe, who are creating the world's first social sandbox MMO and built that in the cloud. Or all of our who are a direct-to-consumer dog food company, so creating a sustainable product line for dogs. So let's get into our framework then. So as you saw, we have a variety of different companies, so everything basically ranging from the deepest end, so quantum computing, all the way to consumer goods or games even. And kind of what's the common denominator for all of these companies is, in addition to the fact that we want to back teams who are redefining categories, is the fact that we also want to really invest in companies who are creating value long term for their stakeholders and who basically exist also after our ownership period. And so we see that founding teams who have either a deep tech or brand drivenness in their core are then effectively future-proofing themselves to thrive in changing times and basically to stay relevant in their respective markets. And what do we mean then by brand-driven? Well, approximately something like this. So a company that demonstrates having a deep, nuanced understanding of how their product interacts with human emotion. So really, we do believe that kind of a deep customer understanding based on which you build your brand can become your key competitive advantage over time. And the way we evaluate these companies is somewhere along these lines or along this framework. So basically there are companies in our deal flow that are very much based on technological advances, so the deep tech companies, but then there are some that whose competitive advantage is not necessarily the technology but something else, and this is what we apply to them, obviously case by case. But basically the framework centers around 4 pillars. So first, your brand concept and identity. Second, your target audience. Third, kind of analytical power that your team has. And fourth, your channel choices and how sustainable they are long term. And I'm going to be talking a little bit of each one of these. if we start from the brand concept and identity, so basically a brand concept means that your brand has both the character and the essence. So you basically know why your brand exists and you are able to communicate its necessity to the others. And this kind of a brand concept is then the prerequisite for being able to build a distinct brand identity, which then again means for instance, your creative assets like your logo or your colors or typography or even your tonality. And basically over time, obviously brands needs to evolve in sync with what happens in the society. And we do think that if you actually think your kind of a brand core and your brand concept through, then you also know what are the elements that kind of you want to stick with over time and what are the elements that you can play with freely. When discussing with the entrepreneurs, at minimum we would expect that you first of all understand that brand doesn't equal your logo and that your intern cannot necessarily lead your brand efforts. And overall, then you can actually discuss these things with us, so you know what a brand concept or a brand identity is. And what can then kind of wow us and kind of convince us towards the investment are, for instance, if your team already has someone who's kind of taking ownership of the branding efforts, or if you have that on the roadmap. Also, if you've actually thought about dedicated resources to this matter, that can be shown, for instance, in your budget or your financial modeling that you showed to us, and that you factored these type of things there in. And maybe you're already somewhere when it comes to actually knowing what kind of identity you actually want to build over time. Second, so deep understanding of your target audience. So in our view, the founders should be fairly specific in terms of who they're targeting, since obviously products rarely speak for themselves. And oftentimes it seems to us that founders tend to deprioritize this work, so thinking about their audience or thinking about their value proposition before kind of way too late. So they push their products to the market without having any idea where they sit in the market, who they're running up against, or who their audience is, or why their client should be choosing their product instead of competitors. Again, here when we discuss with the entrepreneurs, at minimum we would like you to have a clear and unique value proposition, and we would like you to be able to summarize actually like who your target audience is and what are the needs of this target audience. What wows us with this regard is if you know basically something that other people don't know, so you're able to look beyond the kind of a common beliefs and showcase empathy also in your branding effort. So it's basically just all about convincing us that you are aligned with your audience and that you know your audience better than, for instance, we do. It's very worrying if we know the audience better than we do. Third, data-driven team. So we are keen on understanding or kind of seeing the team's relationship when it comes to owning the customer relationships and being able to derive data from these interactions. And we do believe that your kind of this customer insights muscle that you build can be your, again, advantage when thinking about how to stay relevant in the market, and for instance how to fight against the industry incumbents. So a good example when it comes to this is, for instance, our portfolio company Alvarvet. So what they did is they noticed from their customer funnel or their marketing data basically that the big breed dogs were the most likely to drop out of the funnel. And what they did is that they created a product targeting specifically them, and then they were able to basically fix this problem quite easily and quite efficiently. And this is a good example of kind of a case where they operate in a very traditional industry where the traditional players, first of all, don't probably even have access to that kind of insights because they operate, for instance, through the retailers. Or even if they did, they probably cannot act as quickly as Alva did because their product development cycles are just way longer. So here, at minimum, when we talk with founders, we would expect that you actually sit on top of the data yourself, so you are not outsourcing this kind of exercise for anyone else. And that you're able to actually discuss your key metrics, you know what your key metrics are, and at the best case, not all of them are from Google Analytics, but you've actually also discussed directly with the clients or customers at some point. Some of this data can be even qualitative. And what then wows us is obviously if you have a measurable marketing strategy in place and you can showcase us that you constantly test the hypothesis that you have. And one kind of a good way to show this to us, if you for instance have a real-time data dashboards in place, you don't necessarily have to share that with us as part of the investment process, but even just seeing those briefly kind of convinces us that okay, probably this team is kind of driving their organization forward based on data and not based on their gut feeling. And fourth, sustainable channel use and behavior. So we do appreciate a clear understanding of how to build the business sustainability, in a sustainable manner, and that's not meaning sustainable from kind of an economic or environmental impact point of view, but exactly from the kind of a business economics point of view. So how you build it in a sustainable way throughout the customer journey, from marketing to distribution to your customer service and care. Here we oftentimes see that founders opt for or optimize for short term, often obviously pushed by their investors, and this obviously then means that the business is fundamentally like set up in an unsustainable way. And this is very evident, for instance, when it comes to customer acquisition. So basically, it's harder and harder to plug into Facebook or Instagram for organic growth, and obviously then more and more brands are turning into paid marketing. And this means that it's more and more hard to compete when it comes to paid marketing, and even within just one company, you can see that the more you pour money into Facebook's marketing machine, the kind of more relatively expensive acquiring customers gets. And so, again, we do think that brand matters here. So the way we see it is that you are kind of a brand and your story must work, otherwise your performance marketing won't. And it's not kind of one or the other, it's like you have to have the brand there, and the performance marketing is basically just then spreading that at scale. And it only works if your brand genuinely does. Here, at minimum, we would expect that you can kind of look beyond just pure performance marketing, because we know that your brand doesn't grow exponentially with your paid ads. And overall, what then kind of makes an impression to us is if you've thought through your customer journey. So you've actually modeled that, and you kind of have thought about all the touch points and how to build that from the business economics point of view, but also from the point of view that how does my brand look consistent across all the touch points. We appreciate creative approaches when it comes to channel choices. But also here, we obviously understand that everyone needs to start from somewhere, and there are great examples where the company has, for instance, only started with one channel. But even in those cases, you need to be able to justify and kind of explain your choices. So why is it that you, for instance, only want to grow your audience on Instagram? Like tell us the reasoning behind that. And obviously, kind of what we're going after with this is that we see a healthy customer acquisition cost versus lifetime value over time, and kind of one other brand health indicator that we follow is what share of your new clients are actually coming to you through word of mouth and not through paid marketing, and we would like this to be maturity when things evolve. That's that's it about our framework. And again, I want to emphasize the fact that this is kind of applied to the cases that are not necessarily deep tech, but something else when they come to us. And but still, even with our deep tech cases, we really think that brand building needs to be high on their agenda as well. Again, Spinnova being a good example later of this. So basically, when companies are onboarded in our portfolio, kind of no matter what the status of the brand is at that exact point, we really do see value on working on that matter, and we try and also help on those matters. For instance, with both whenever someone is or a new investment enters our portfolio, we host a brand lab that Alex is going to talk about more and kind of try and help the founders understand that they should be prioritized as well as they go forward. So that's that on my part. So thank you, and I will let Alexander take over.
My name is Alexander. I come from Bo, the brand company, and today, like Pauliina mentioned, I would like to discuss about a concept called brand labs, which is kind of like a pulse check or a deep dive into one specific area in branding, and we posted those sessions now about a year for Maki's portfolio companies, and hopefully you'll find some good insights that you can take home and use in your branding efforts as well. And hello everybody in home. I think this is streamed. Okay, thousands of you watching from home screens. So the agenda is shortly this. I'm about to introduce my company, Bo, and then move on to brand labs, what they are, how do we operate them, and then what are the examples of the concrete outcomes of those brand labs for 2 cases, and then I'll share some lessons and insights learned from the brand labs and our clients that are in similar stages as the company's brand lab sessions usually are. Very shortly, introduction about Bo, what we are, and usually when you get a warm intro you will have a link to the website, so I posted a picture of our website. So our website looks like this, and in 3 sentences that's what we are. So in 3 sentences we call it like it is, and that means that we want to be the most honest and direct agency that you'll find, and we always aim for concrete and avoid too abstract language. The second one is about who we are and our approach. We think that you won't build brand from just one front, so that's why we are a bunch of different experts from different fields, marketers and writers and designers and developers. For you, that means that you don't need to do shopping that much, since you get all the things that kind of like help you in branding from one place. And for us, it's just more ways to be creative. And the last one is about our approach or our background. So we come from the tech circles, that's where we started, and the tech companies that we work with have kind of like shaped our approach and how we operate as an agency as well. And started off last year, and this is some of our cool clients and the nice logos that they have. Some of you might recognize them. And this is kind of like our portfolio, a bunch of our portfolio in a nutshell. But then we look at the brand labs, so what they are and how do we operate them. So first of all, the what part. If we go into very kind of like an academic view on what we're trying to build, in a nutshell, is that we're trying to build cognitive ease. So making companies easier to comprehend, easier to understand. And this is kind of like a good framework that we use in Kahneman's book, actually, so the Thinking Fast and Slow book, where it says that the easier the information is to process, the better we feel about its source. So the same kind of thing goes to branding, and that's where we're trying to help and brand labs the companies. But now it's getting very abstract, and I just told you about the call it like it is attitude. So we're using this framework that we built for every kind of a brand lab session in the beginning, where we divide the brand to 8 segments. And those segments always start from category, so what is the product or service category? Who are the audience? So divide that into as many segments as possible. What are the unique selling points that you're trying to convince your audience? How do these selling points turn into main messages that you might use in your PR efforts, for example? And then these unique selling points and main messages should somehow be linked in your visual identity. So the visual identity should just not look nice or be just funny looking, but it should be aligned with these things above. And then the whole experience, so what things should people experience online when they see your product? And then what is the language that you're using? What are some kind of references from the language of any companies? And especially what are the list of no-go words that you're using when you're speaking in a certain tonality, tone of voice? And when we have all these 7 pieces together, then the last part is that we can build a brand narrative, which is then kind of like combining all these from the unique selling points, the main messages, and speaking in the right kind of tone of voice, the right kind of audience. So this usually helps us to keep our efforts aligned so that we won't see, doing things here and there. And in a brand lab, we focus on one specific area, which the company is at the moment putting more effort. For example, it can be they've just finished their visual identity and they want now to focus on the key messaging, for example. And the agenda is always as follows. So after we've done this, we take a look at the competitors. So we see how do we position at the moment. We do some quantitative analysis, for example, search engine optimization, and we see what competitors, how do they compare to you in search engines, what are the terms that the people use usually when they're trying to search you or the competitors, and how do you rank between your companies. And then the qualitative analysis is more on the visual side, so how do you look, what is the tone of voice that you're using compared to your competitors, what are the terms that you're trying to own, and so on. How are you positioning yourself in your social media channels or your web page, and what have you been written in media. After that, we dive deeper into the specific brand, so brand X in this example. We take a small summary and see where you are now. And then we focus on this chosen area, like I said, for example, visual identity or key messaging, for example. And then we give concrete suggestions on what could we improve. And from previous brand labs, here are some examples of what was the situation before and what were the concrete suggestions. Example 1 is Alvarpet, and Alvarpet is a company that is building a product or product line for more sustainable dog food, like Pauliina just mentioned. And the situation was that they were very, very much analytically driven, and they already had everything in place in that, and they were very kind of like advanced. So we focused on the visual side. So in the visual side, they want to focus on UX design, making their kind of like very, very unique color palette more memorable, and tell their story visually in a better way, so that people would maybe remember them with higher probability when they see the company. And this is what we came up with. Since Alvar is actually like a real dog, if you didn't know, and it's owned by the founders of the company, so we thought that's very unique. None of the competitors had it, so we placed that as to be one of the key elements in the visual identity. We took a stronger use of the main colors and designed the UX to be more, let's say, e-commerce compared to the previous version. And this Alvar, as a kind of like brand ambassador, also aligned that in social media channels and marketing, and not only digital channels but also physical. So packaging was also recommended to change for highlighting the Alvar, and the one thing that you need to remember: the slogan and then the company and its unique story. And example 2 is more from the communications perspective. So that's a company called Carbon Cloud, and their product Carbon Data is basically a carbon footprint calculator for food products. For example, at the side of an Oatly package, you will see their stamp or seal of approval that they have calculated the carbon footprint of this product. And the focus there was threefold as well. So there was the key messaging part. We need to kind of like crisp their key messages, turn them into a better copywriting, and apply that to the website. And they could then later on utilize that and apply that to, for example, brochures, presentations, marketing materials, and so on. And then a third one, which was very interesting, was the label design itself. Since the label, so this one that you see here, is maybe the primary marketing channel for a company like data, since the packages are sent out worldwide, and a lot of the competitors of these companies will see them, and how could we get them interested when they see it's them at the side of their competitor's product. So the first focus area was laser here, no, right, was in the headings. So we took two kind of approaches, the first one being the emotional side first, and the second one being product side first. And the emotional side first, it looked like this. So in a world full of labels, use the one that actually matters, and then go into the product itself. So this is one approach. And the other one was focusing on the product core, so the only tool for real-time market labeling. And then we continued with this kind of approach to the whole web page. And from the labeling part, the key thing, the main question was that how do we make carbon data's clients and their competitors interested in buying carbon data or become similar companies that the competitors are. So we decided that, okay, let's bring some sort of a label hierarchy for the packaging. And imagine that if Oatly's competitor would see the package, why would they be interested? So we kind of designed that there could be 3 different ranks. So you can be just measuring your carbon data, you can be among top 10% or 20% of this product category, or then you can be completely carbon neutral or carbon negative. And this is, of course, does not take into account all the regulatory kind of limitations, but this is just a design and communications idea. So this was a concrete suggestion. And in addition to these concrete things, we tend to see kind of like same things done over again for many companies. So I put together 5 lessons that hopefully are concrete enough for you to use later on in your branding efforts. So the first one is about the value proposition. So the value proposition does not necessarily need to be unique. That's kind of like it's usually a wrong assumption. It needs to be something unique. People tend to list all the unique things from the very, very nitty-gritty details of their company or their product, but it doesn't necessarily need to be that. The better way is the thing that you want to own the top of mind of the value proposition. You can just be the most best tasting chocolate cookie or most sustainable T-shirt company or whatever, and that's the thing that you just want to highlight, and not all the actually unique things. The second one is when you're trying to validate your positioning, people usually use the search engine marketing or search engine optimization, and they tend to do them separately, but you will end up doing duplicate work if you do that. So use search engine marketing to validate, and then the search engine optimization to produce based on those results that you get from the first one. And if you're feeling that you don't know how to get started, what are the keywords and so on, one very concrete way to get started is to write a frequently asked questions page, and that way you will find the keywords, you will find the most used phrases, you will find the questions that your company is asked for, and after that session you will have like a proper content that you can already put your website, or then start dividing into smaller pieces and content blocks to your pages. The third one is to separate the brand idea from the elevator pitch. These are also things that usually get mixed. So the brand idea can be like Lidl is cheap, Lidl halpa, or smooth by Klarna, or hungry by Wolt, or wow no cow by Oatly. So those are different than the elevator pitch, and they can be very, very different. Fourth one is something that you should demand from your freelancers, from your designers, or from your agency, regardless of what you're using, so that the visual identity, like I showed you in the framework, should be aligned with all the other things that you are thinking about your brand. So it should communicate about the unique selling points or the main messages, and it should represent the tone of voice in the best case as well. So kind of like demand these from your agency if you have it. And the fifth one is also more about the validating part. So when you're testing your messaging, test your key messages, your unique selling points, and try to kind of prioritize those in some order. Do one thing at a time and write those learnings down, not just for the dashboard, but also write them manually down on a monthly basis, so that then you will see that, okay, what were the mistakes or what were the learnings that we did from the past months or a year if you continue to do this on regular basis. And once again, if you don't do it yourself, require that from freelancers or your agency. And I've heard that some agencies do it even without asking. And the sixth one is that you should always end up with a clear call to action, clear, like a big boom. So I'll give you guys something to think about, like a very, very massive benefit, which is an incredible discount code for Bo. So if you send this to us by end of the week or month, I'm sure we're going to have a good negotiation and a good deal for you. But jokes aside, thank you very much. Thank you, Pauliina, for hosting this, and thank you, Jessica, on behalf of Maria. And let's hear some wise words from Lotta next. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Here at Maria, and also the thousands or maybe millions of people at home. Okay, a pleasure to be here, and a pleasure to give a short presentation live. So let's see how long this will go on. So Lotta is my name, and I represent a company called Spinnova. We produce the world's most sustainable textile materials. I can take questions during the presentation or then afterwards. I guess there is some time. I will tell you a little bit about the company and then our journey towards a professional brand, and maybe one aspect of that in particular. So our brand hierarchy, the platform for building a product portfolio for later. Okay, so, and thank you, Alex. It was great. I learned a lot. So maybe I need to take the coupon later this week. Let's see. Okay, so about the company. So we produce the world's most sustainable textile materials to benefit the mankind and the globe. So what our product is, it's the materials that industries use in textiles. So fibers, yarns, and fabrics that can be then used in fashion and apparel, but also in many other industries that use textiles, such as healthcare, constructions, interiors, and so on. Maybe now, for the benefit of today's discussion, branding, let's dig deeper in the apparel and fashion, and there the market sentiment, to give you a little bit of background. So if you look at how that market develops, so if you look at the volumes of apparel used, one would think, at least I would think or hope even, that the sentiment of consumer would move towards sustainability. However, it doesn't show in figures just yet. So in recent 15 years, the volume of apparel bought each year has doubled, and it's estimated to continue to grow. And if you look at how this impacts then the environment, it's quite dramatic and a little bit sad. So if you look at the water consumption, the figures we just saw, it would impact plus 50% in fresh water use, or plus or increase of 2/3 in energy use, and so on and so forth. And these are, of course, by no means in line with whatever Paris Climate Agreement or whatever standard or KPI we look at, and the ambition level for the environment. So a big gap there. And the industry knows this, and they feel the pain. So the brand houses, the consumers seem to do nothing just today. So we have a mean for the brand houses to fix this. So what we can do is to give the brand owners an option. So replacing their current textile materials with Spinnova materials, they can radically reduce their carbon footprint or CO2, whatever the KPI is. So when they replace, for example, cotton with Spinnova fibers, they can decrease 60 3% of their CO2 as one example. So, and what this then implies to us, to our numbers, is that our fiber is a natural fiber. Firstly, it's closest to cotton or linen or other natural fibers. And we have picked cotton to be the cotton market to be the market we target first because of this. So if you look at the cotton apparel market, the size of cotton-based materials in apparel market is 80 billion a year. And our aim is to take 1.6% share of that by the year 2028. And for us it means 1.2 billion of turnover and 400,000 ton of production of fiber. So this is our aim first. In terms of sustainability figures, so it's 100% natural. Right now, our innovation is in technology that can use several raw materials or waste streams, side streams, for textile materials. Now, our first scaled up production will be virgin wood and the most sustainable certified virgin wood. So that's natural, that's certified, and of course has no microplastics. Maybe a little bit of background, we can also use waste streams such as agro-waste, so the wheat straw that is on the fields after harvesting. Or we can use many textile wastes, not everything, but for example natural fibers. We can use many other food wastes, even let's say potato peels, many kinds. So this is exciting for us, but right now we have a scale-up plan and an investment plan, and also investors for the first raw material, which is then virgin wood. So it's fully biodegradable in many environments, in the seas, in composts and so on. It uses minimum water. So for example, in comparison to cotton, from the farming all the way to apparel, it uses 99.7% less fresh water. And what's in the core of how we differentiate is that we use no harmful chemicals. We are the only company in the industry that can say that. So everybody else is using less harmful chemicals, or circulating the harmful chemicals, not letting them in the environment, but we use none. So we have a mechanical way of grinding and producing the fiber, and that's what's groundbreaking. That's why we have an innovation portfolio of eight IP families and I think 37 patents worldwide. And this is why it's so broad that the use of this. So the CO2 emissions, we still work on this, but it's looking very good. And of course recyclable. So we can put our own materials back into our process and use the same fibers many times, let's say 20 times, whereas let's say for cotton, one is able to produce new cotton fiber 2.3 times normally. So quite a big difference there. But that's a little bit of background, and maybe I went a little bit too deep already, but to give you a little bit of context of who we are and how do we see the world. So now about the branding journey. And I think Pauliina put it in a nice way, saying that some companies are starting off with the market and consumer insight or customer insight, whereas others are deep tech driven and look at this only later. And that would be us. So a company is now 5 years old, and it has been very tech driven. And only recently, for a year now or so, we have more concentrated in commercialization this, which is my role at Spinnova. I think I never mentioned that. And then of course branding being one key part of that. I will now, so we have firstly, I think here at Maria one is able to share things that are not yet complete. Our branding is a work in progress. So, for example, our company logo is not yet done, but anyways, you now get a feeling of where we are. So we have been, of course, starting like also Alex mentioned, thinking about who is our target audience. That's very broad. So we have 2 layers of customers. So it's a B2B product. We sell to brands. And then at the same time, we want to build brand presence for the consumer. So that when the consumer is in the shop and buys a clothing, they can see that they can see the Spinnova logo, and they can feel this emotional confidence of, yes, we know this is sustainable. So so that's very broad as a target, and the audience is very broad. So now our focus has been to build something, a message of clarity. And the value proposition of clarity. So we know what is it that we can provide to the quite sort of traditional and quite broad value chain in textiles. So let's now dig deeper in our brand architecture. One step on the way to get this product commercialized is to have a recognizable brand and to productize this in many ways. So for us, the future product portfolio is quite complex, it's quite deep, such as it's the fiber, it's the yarn, it's different kinds of fabrics, and it's also quite wide, so it has many kinds of blends. For example, this industry is known for blends. So it's not only Spinnova fiber, but it's a blend of Spinnova cotton, Spinnova lyocell, and so on and so forth. So and then even other dimensions, such as how small is the CO2 per product, what is the technology used per product. So one could then categorize this in many ways, and this complexity we have now tried to put it in some more simple format. So some of the background, the big ambition that we have commercially has set one standard or one aim for this work, and this industry is one of the oldest in the world. So how to work with that, or in that context, in a way that we are believable. And we work with the standards that the industry already has, and still are fresh and bring something unique, let's say next generation into that context. So this has been one of our channel challenges. Ease, clarity, understandability have been words that have been mentioned today. So given all this, we have firstly decided that we will have one master brand. So we will not have many brands, but we will just have one, and then we have many ways of using that, and we have used that in a different way in the product context, as in a company context, as in a technology context, and so on. But just one word that we want the whole world to recognize. So this is our master brand. Also, the industry context is such that when one refers to materials, one uses all caps. One uses our registered mark. At the end of it also has something to do with the trademark legislation. So we try to, coming from an innovation company, having not one staff member from the industry that we operate in, so textiles, we have tried to adapt some of the industry factors into our brand, however, not too much. But here a little bit of the product platform or complexity, how we work with that. So we try to use this one master brand word, and then we will have tens of different articles or products, and then we try to add after that something that is descriptive. So not something that is man-invented, but is more descriptive. So we then have a code after the core brand name, that which refers to material type, the technology used, the recipe, and so on and so forth. So this is now the sort of product naming hierarchy that we decided to use. Now, this is just to give you the idea that this is the B2B world we operate in, sort of. And then the other layer, the consumer layer, has a totally different set of challenges, or how to put it. So what is the way, what is the wording, what is the message, what is the tonality that we speak to the consumer with? And that's a whole different world. So it's just a good way of putting it, like Alex also said, that the branding is everywhere. It's about communicating all the aspects of the company on an emotional level to the target audience. And this topic is quite broad, given this example, Spinnova. Let's see what else I had. No, yeah. That's what I had actually today. So, yeah, should we have this, should we take some questions now? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I had one question. Of course, or first and foremost, of course, super interesting presentation. Thank you. You're one of the most interesting and important companies on the planet.
Wow, thank you.
I think you had an example of where you have 40% Spinnova and 60% cotton. My question is simply, is there a reason why it's not 100% Spinnova, or will we get to that point?
Yeah, okay, the question was, why do we produce textile materials that only have a blend that's minority share as Spinnova? Really good question. Our product is still developing. So a year ago it was really rough. You could make a rug, and now you can make jeans and you can make even a shirt. But we are not there yet, so we cannot produce, for example, underwear yet, and we cannot produce 100% material that would go through all the testing at the brand side. So they have tens and even hundreds of test cases that they run through at the brand houses, we have joint product development with our brand partners, and we try to facilitate this towards 100% Spinnova. Today we are not there. I think we should be there in a year. So it's really exciting. But then also, when I did my due diligence about Spinnova before joining, one of the great things about the business model and the industry is that it doesn't have a very high barrier to entry. Of course, it's investment heavy, so in that way, yes. But for looking at the market side, it's such that, let's say, the mobile phone business, it's a huge step for the consumer to decide not to take Apple, but to take a brand X that is new. But here, the industry is used to buying blends that then has a small risk for them. So they can just replace 5% of their cotton with Spinnova. And it already makes a big difference on the planet. It's a big business for us. And like I said, it has a small risk for them. And it's actually it's quite amazing that the brands have these cotton replacement programs, for example, where they are committed in replacing a share of their cotton by, let's say, in the next 5 years or so, and we have the direct solution for that. So for that, we believe it's a good way of starting the journey is to do blends. Yeah?
Can you elaborate a bit about the name Spinnova, where it came from, and also sort of what has been the hardest challenges when creating this brand for your company?
Yeah, I think the company name is the Founders Baby. We have two exceptionally smart founders, physicists, Janne Poranen and Juha Salmela. And the the name has something to do with Nova, so newness. And then about spinning. So spinning is us both at the fiber making stage and then also on the yarn spinning, yarn making stage. So that, and we have decided to keep that company name and brand or word brand. We have quite a good protection on the of the product or the company name and the usage of that. So it's very broad worldwide, and we stick to that for now. Pauliina.
How did the branding process go from like internally, like who in the organization figured out that this is something that we should do something about, and then how has it been like as I understood it, your job within the organization? So how has it been doing that in like technological?
Yeah, Pauliina's question was that how was the branding process? How did it look from the inside? So who was involved? How did it go? Yeah, good question. So my title is Chief Commercial Officer. I look after the commercialization of this product. So sales, partnerships, branding, marketing, communications, but then also textile development, product development, and everything else like coffee making. The founders are both tech people. So in collaboration with them, then we had a very good agency supporting us. Both has now become a branding agency, I see. We used another one called Proxy in London, also a good branding agency. So I think one thing is to use a professional and hopefully also data. So then everybody needs to, I think, commit that now we are on a journey where we need to listen to the professionals, branding professionals. We cannot pursue that we know things, or we cannot make decisions based on how we feel like only, but we need to listen to the experts of this field. I think that commitment stage is really, really key. And then after that, after these commitments, so sort of what are the objectives? What is the objective of the branding? So given the target audience, what is the feeling or the action that we want them to make? And then from there, see that what does it mean for branding side. And we are only scratching the surface today, so there is so much more we need to do. But so I think these commitments is key there, and it hasn't been frictionless because many ambitions and many kinds of backgrounds, but we are on a good journey. Yeah.
I have a question about you said earlier that you can't make certain products like underwear and so on. For the end customer, how does your product feel? How's the difference between your product and a different product?
Yeah, question was how different is our product? We cannot make a next to skin product today, so how does our product feel? The fiber that comes out of our production line feels just like any other natural fiber, such as cotton. Then you can make it thinner, you can make it different variation, but it feels the same. And the use of that is the same. So it's a plug-in product for the customer's value chain or our own value chain, but the regular technology. So then there is different methods, let's say 7 key methods of yarn spinning in the industry. Some of those or one of those is what works best with our fiber. So we use that, but it's a plug-in product. It's just like cotton. Industry knows what to do.
You don't feel any difference?
No, you don't feel any difference. So now the fibers or textile materials in the marketplace today are very different from each other. For example, the man-made fiber such as lyocell is very soft and good for next-to-skin products, where again linen is much more rougher and cross. So they are just used for different applications, different purposes. So we have the best match or best similarity with natural fibers today.
Can you somehow check? It's like a lot of companies who would like to use your brand, saying we have this kind of a nice new way. Can I continue the question?
Yeah.
Can you check afterwards if your product is used in the product at all, or is it used for branding?
Can I check afterwards if
your product has been used in the end product?
Okay. If our materials have been used in an end product, yes, that is detectable. We are actually developing that now. So there is a certain way of detecting that, and what is great that it is a new, and EU legislation also says that it's a new natural fiber, newborn natural fiber, something that the textile industry hasn't seen in decades. So and it's detectable. So there is a way of seeing that. What we currently are just developing is the whole transparent to the whole value chain. So let's say what is the timber lot use or the forest for example, that has been used for this product. So that ability we don't have just yet, but that one we have. So professionals can see that it's Spinnova. Thank you for today.
Awesome. Thank you, Lotta, and thank you for everyone for listening to this. I hope everyone here and the millions on the via the streaming learned something today. And I guess to finish this off, I hope what you learned was also that your investor can support in the branding process and should support in that. So at least to help you get started, and if you're already further, then get you forward in the process. So that's that, and hope to see everyone around Maria. Still, hopefully, in the coming weeks. We never know apparently nowadays. And if you have any more questions, obviously we're happy to answer also when we bump into each other around here. So thanks.